Welcome to the Celebrating Women podcast, co-hosted by Mandee Montana and Ashley Fisher, a podcast that celebrates women, their issues, their thoughts, their lives, conversations that celebrate their gifts, their talents, their courage. It's the Celebrating Women podcast. Presented by Hand & Stone Massage and Facial Spa in Tyler, Texas. Hey there, it's Mandee Montana. Are you taking great care of your skin? You know, I use great products, I take my vitamins, and I drink plenty of water. But I could be better about applying sunscreen daily and making sure my skin is protected against premature aging. What about you? I've got great news, though. I do have a solution. It's called the Diamond Glow Treatment at Hand & Stone Massage and Facial Spa in Tyler. I love it. It exfoliates and hydrates your skin at the same time. I know my skin feels so soft and silky after. You have got to try it. If you've never had a facial before, they do offer different options at Hand & Stone, like hydrating and brightening. If you're struggling, though, with dark spots, hyperpigmentation, sun damage, sallow skin, enlarged pores, maybe oily skin, this is the treatment for you. If you want your skin to glow and look and feel amazing, you've got to try the Diamond Glow. Located in Cumberland Shopping Center, schedule your appointment today. Visit handandstonetyler.com. That's handandstonetyler.com.
Welcome back to the Celebrating Women podcast. I am Ashley Fisher.
I'm Mandee Montana, and we've got coffee this morning. Yay!
We've got a grande, triple, blonde, mocha in my hand. What do you have over there?
Mine's not that fancy. I made it at home. It's 2 Nespresso pods, some almond milk, some sugar-free vanilla syrup, and some collagen.
Ooh, that's a good combination. I need to start using that in my coffee. All right,
yummy.
my friend. Well, it's just Mandee and I right now this morning, and we all survived the cold and the freeze and all that good stuff. But Mandee and I, we were chatting and talking about just a few different things, but then the thing that came up for us this morning was a very interesting topic of self-awareness.
Yes.
And I've been thinking about this topic for really this week. It's really been on my mind because I think about it, especially in regard to parenting. There's been one thing, like there's this meme, I don't know, you've probably seen it, but it's going around, it's been going around now for like a year or more. And it says, be the parent that you needed when you were a kid.
Yeah.
I've seen that and it bugs me every time I see it.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
There's an interesting, in relation to that, there's an author called, her name is Dr. Shafali, and she's written a book on conscious parenting. And it's really about like parenting yourself.
Yes. Which
your inner child.
So
yeah,
I think that when you take that statement just like that, I think it could be really, really dangerous.
Oh?
I think that is a statement that has two parts, but they didn't write the other part.
Okay.
And that's the part that bothers me, because I do fully believe in working through our personal issues and realizing possibly deficits from our childhood growing up in whatever way, and letting that child heal, like talking to her. My therapist said the problem with like our childhood trauma is that we often look at it through the lens of an adult. You know, we look at it through, we kind of downplay it because we're looking at it through our adult eyes now. But
yeah, it's hard not to.
If you go back and you go back to that time when you were 8 and something happened, look at it through your 8-year-old eyes and give her some space to be like, you didn't get what you needed in that moment, or that was really traumatic, or giving space. And maybe even seeing areas where, you know, like, because no parent is perfect. I have wonderful parents, and no parent is perfect.
Sure.
And so that reparenting of yourself as you get older is like something that I think every healthy adult, it's a quest I think that we should be on. I'm just now fully convinced. Okay, that's one side of it. Then you have this person that you have been entrusted with to raise. And I just think that it's so not healthy to go be who I needed to them.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I was trying to follow. Yeah, because she needs you to be who she for
who
her.
she needs, like,
Right.
and who they need. And so
Yep.
my whole thing is like, if all of us are going around trying to be the parents and fill in the gaps where we needed as a kid, you are leaving holes.
Yeah, big holes.
For
Yeah,
your children.
for sure.
And so my thing is, be the parent that you needed. Like, some people didn't have parents who were like open to talking about feelings. My parents were not one, but they were always open about talking about feelings. But let's just give that as an example. So as a parent, you're going to be like, hey, I see the benefit in talking openly about our feelings, so I'm going to do that. But I think that it's so important to not parent them based off of your lack.
Yeah.
But to parent them based on
What they need.
Yeah. So all that big, like, blah, to get around back around to self-awareness, I don't think that we can parent or be in friendship or relationship with people and know what they need unless we know what we need, unless we are self-aware about ourselves, about like what we need, what we lack, what our blind spots. Like, if we are not aware of those things, we are much more likely to be very unaware of those things in other people.
And I think that's a constant quest too.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, because we change and we grow and we evolve as adults, well, as children, but into adults too. And awareness of that change is important. You know, I was thinking about this in context of my marriage too. Like, the other day, we've had, you know, our anniversary's coming up. We'll be married 7 years. And so, like any other marriage, we've had bumps and bruises along the way. It's not been smooth sailing the whole time. But a lot of that is because we've changed since we got together 12 years ago. You know, like, I'm not the same person I was at 28. He's not the same person he was when we met, you know. So some of those things are great. We've both grown in good ways, but we've also, like, devolved in some ways too. Like, we've developed different habits around each other. And so, like, having an awareness of who I am as a wife versus who I am as a friend is also, like, something that I've been trying to navigate, because I think I'm much better at communicating with, say, you or some of my good girlfriends than I am with him, because I have more fear there.
Yeah.
Because I'm more vulnerable with him. He could hurt me deeper if I'm really honest and just laying it all out.
Yeah.
Because I love him so much.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And so, like, that's an area of self-awareness that I'm currently navigating. But one that I saw that probably a lot of people have seen. I just did some travel.
Oh, Lord.
Had a wonderful trip to Jamaica. So, like, let me just preface this before I say something negative. It was an outstanding trip.
You looked like
it
you
was
had
wonderful.
so much fun, and you looked fantastic, by the way.
Thank you. I felt confident and had a lot of fun with people I don't get to see very often, which was heartwarming and wonderful, and just highly recommend visiting Jamaica. Like, it's safe at an all-inclusive resort. I don't know if it's safe off, because I just stayed right there. But the food was great. The people were wonderful. We had this big party at the end of our trip, and the staff was dancing and singing along to the music with us.
That.
Yes,
that's awesome.
It was.
That's
it was.
Fun.
So all that happiness to say, in the airport, I think it is the best visual you can have of people lacking self-awareness. People will just be walking in the middle of these big walkways and just stop. And clearly there's a flow of traffic. People are, like, rushing to catch gates and stuff. And sometimes people will just stop and open their luggage in front of you, and you're like, oh, wait, I'm going to trip. I'm going to fall over this person. And it was just, there were so many moments where it was like, oh my gosh, this person has no awareness of everyone moving around them.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. And maybe that's just a great way. I need to look up, like, the definition of self-awareness, because I think we probably all have our ideas of, like, what it is.
Yeah.
And I think it goes in, I feel like it goes to levels, because there's this level of self-awareness of, like, oh gosh, I need to get something out of my bag. But there are lots of people behind me coming behind me and they're in a hurry. So I am going to go over here out of those people's way and take care of my business. I cannot go through a drive-through to this day without being very aware of who is behind me.
Really?
Yes, because my dad, growing up, I mean, oh, Lord have mercy. If we were in the car with my mom and she was driving.
Oh, this is going to be a great story.
He made a list, I think, one time of the steps that it takes
oh my gosh.
a woman to go through the ATM and the steps that it takes a man. Took him 3 steps. Hers, it was like 20. Because I love my sweet mama, but bless her soul, she'll get her money out of the ATM. And then I'm just going to dig in my purse for a minute and I'm going to find my lipstick when I'm done. And I got to put this receipt over here.
Oh, I see.
And there's people behind you and they're waiting. And my dad would be like, Robin, you got to get out of their way. And that, after years and years and years of riding in the car with them, it is like, in my brain, it's like soldered in my brain. Like when we're going through Chick-fil-A and the kids are like ravenously hungry. Mom, I want my lemonade. Listen, everybody, I have to get out of everybody's way first. That's my number one thing.
Yeah.
You can get your stuff, but we are not going to hold up this line of 20 cars just so that I can hand you your chicken nuggets. When I can hand you your chicken nuggets when I get out of their way here in a minute.
Right.
That's
appreciated, Ashley. Thank you.
I mean, I feel like I
think about it too,
me.
but not maybe to that level. I didn't experience that with my parents, but I do think about that. I was in line at Starbucks yesterday and pulled through from the window, and I was ahead. I was at the one south down by the shopping center. I can't even think of what it's called, right? Cumberland. There were cars behind me. But there were also cars in the parking lot that were trying to pull out and navigate that intersection, which is really weird because Ultra's right next door and you can't, there's a do not enter sign. Anyway, it's confusing.
It's very strange, yeah.
You can only
Don't go right, you go left.
You have to
out of the drive-thru.
Yeah, because you can't make that full U. You I guess you'd have to do a 3-point turn or something. Anyway, so I needed to turn left, but there are these other cars that are backing up in that tiny little parking lot and they're trying to go that way. And I'm thinking, this person behind me wants their coffee. And I think there was enough room for them to pull up at least to the window, but I'm like stuck sitting there waiting and I'm not drinking or eating anything yet because I'm kind of like you. I'm like trying to be aware and let these people and two, it's just not safe at this moment because I don't know what these cars in front of me are doing. But I tend to be a pretty aware driver. I've done defensive driving a few times in my youth.
Have you now?
For speeding tickets. So I took that course a few times. But yeah, it's that. I just think that's being kind too. That's just thoughtfulness.
It is, but it takes
self-awareness.
Self-aware because you want to talk about airport stuff or
Sure.
even in restaurants.
Yeah.
See how the deep breath I gotta take? I do not understand.
Okay, here we go.
I just do not and cannot fathom being in a public place, fairly small, and blaring the music on your phone or the TV show on your phone.
Oh, yeah.
To the point where anyone around you can hear it. I don't understand that.
I don't either.
I just don't. It's rude, y'all. It's just rude. Get some headphones. And if you don't have headphones, turn the sucker down.
Yeah. Or maybe wait till an appropriate time. Yeah.
Somebody did it on the plane.
I heard a couple of people do it on the plane recently too. And I was like, I turned and I'm looking over my shoulder and I'm like, what are you doing?
What are you doing? I'm a pretty nice person, but that kind of stuff, that goes all over me. It really does. Okay, definition of self-awareness.
Yes.
Conscious knowledge of one's own character, feelings, motives, and desires. And right now we're talking about kind of the funny part, I feel like, of self-awareness of
There's definitely some depth to it, though.
Yeah. But I feel like the thing that I've been thinking about, at some point last year, I heard a saying or something, and it was you can only love someone and know someone to the level that you know and love yourself.
Yes.
And it has made me take such a step back and look at the people in my life. And I feel like if there are people in your life that have a blind spot or a deficit in how far they're able to go to know you and to love you, has nothing to do with you and everything to do with how well or deeply they've allowed themselves to know themselves and to love themselves.
It's a hard pill to swallow.
It's a very hard pill to swallow, but it's so...
But knowing that can also give you some peace.
It does, because then it's like...
It takes the pressure off of you.
This had nothing to do with me. It literally had nothing to do with me. And then I go to just this point of compassion where it makes me hurt for them, because I think, how much more like rich would your relationships in life be if you were more self-aware, you know, of like your motives, your thoughts, your feelings. Like when you let that bleed into all of the areas of people's lives, it's like, it's so like light bulb moment, like, oh, and it does. It helps, because sometimes I think when we get hurt or blindsided in relationships, we just think we spend so much time, which I think is in a way it's good, going, golly, what did I do? Like, where was my part in this? Which I think is good and healthy. But relationships are a two-way street. And I think that if you see like this common thread of, oh, like they can only go this far with everyone in their life. Why? It's likely because that's as far as they know themselves. That's as far as they truly love themselves. And that will bring you straight to compassion.
For sure.
Or at least a little bit of compassion for them, and at least a big like breath of relief, like, oh, okay, this wasn't all me. You know, does that make sense?
It does. It totally makes sense. I'm thinking of people whose stories are not mine to tell.
Yeah.
But where I see it, and it is hard. And I think my initial reaction sometimes, which is very human, is frustration. And then I do typically take a step back and have a lot of compassion, because I see that. And it's, you know, it's like I think we've talked about it before, but the saying that hurt people. It's true.
It is true.
And it's because they're broken. And so when you can have that initial moment, and I think it's healthy to have that initial moment of hurt and pain and reaction.
Rightfully so.
Yes. But then if you can take a beat and a deep breath maybe, and just recognize the fact that it's not about you, that they are hurting they've got, like you said, some sort of deficit, probably a lack of self-love. I don't think that's something that is taught well.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's probably something that maybe you and I picked up from our parents and in the church. You know, I think that there's a lot of teaching surrounding that. Maybe it's not quite called self-love, but, you know, but I feel like that is something that is, when you're a Christian and you're walking it, you have to have that to give love to other people and give grace, right?
Yeah. And I think within all of that too, what I have seen over the last couple of years is how much the church puts a Band-Aid on trauma and on people's real experiences to the point where, like, when we say things like, well, you shouldn't be lonely because God is always with you.
Oh, yeah. I see where you're going with that.
You know,
for sure.
Okay. We like the word and. Two things can be true. Do I believe that God is always with us? Absolutely.
And you can feel lonely.
And you can feel lonely. And the church, I think, in general, has done a terrible job of acknowledging you feel lonely right now, and that's okay. Like, I would feel lonely too. Yes, you have God, and He is there, and He is that ever-present help in trouble. And you can feel lonely. There's a difference between knowing something and feeling it. you know?
100%.
And
Yeah.
I think I've seen over the years, especially, again, like adults like our parents' age and older, I think, you know, have done themselves a disservice because they've relegated their own trauma to a bullet point that they never actually went and healed from, but they got some strength, as you will, from like, you know, God is good, or he healed me, or he did this, or he did that. But they never went and did the real hard work of healing that in themselves. And the problem with that is that hurt people hurt people. And if you walk around with an unhealed wound and you're slapping a Band-Aid on it, it's just going to fester and get worse and nastier. And you can cover it up all day long and slap Jesus glitter on it and go, God bless, it's just a great day. And it's like you're falling apart on the inside.
And then things trigger you when you least expect it. We were talking about this before we turned the mics on, and this is similar but different. So I don't have children. I have 3 cats. One of them is 17. She's aging. She's been going to the vet more frequently. She's actually in surprisingly really good health, but she's always been a vocal cat. She's meowed a lot. She purrs loudly, which, I mean, I feel like is a reflection of probably me because I talked to her a lot when she was a kitten, right?
Yeah,
You know, I'm a bit of a talker. And so as she's gotten older, we've started giving her wet food so she'd have more moisture in her diet. So now when she's hungry, she yowls for it. And the frequency that cats yowl is at the same like tone as a baby cries.
Oh,
and
boy.
So it can really grate.
Send you to the end of your sanity.
It really can. Yeah. And it sounds silly to say that about my cat. It really does.
No, but I can see that. I can totally see that.
And so this happened, was it maybe 2 days ago? It was when it was cold and we were kind of stuck inside and whatever. And she was hungry and she was yowling and she'd been doing this and I'd fed her, but she walked away from her plate. She wanted me to turn it, which is the weirdest thing. I don't understand it, but it's the behavior pattern that we're in. And because I started turning it, apparently now I'm stuck turning it.
Game is on now.
Game is on. So she just kept yowling. And I finally looked at my husband and I was like, I'm about to lose it. I'm going to either hurt the cat or I'm going to yell or I'm going to throw a fit. I need to walk away. And he he kind of wide-eyed me like, what is going on? And I just went to the other end of the house. I shut the door where I couldn't really hear her. And I just sat there quietly for like maybe 90 seconds. And like, I didn't look at my phone. I didn't listen to anything. I just sat there and just breathed and I was fine. But if I hadn't removed myself from the situation, and I know because I've made the mistake in the past, I was going to like pick her up and shake her.
Yeah.
I mean, I get so frustrated and I'm like, I can't get it to stop.
Yeah.
And that sound wears on, which I'm sensitive to sound anyway, but that one, ooh.
Yeah, it'll get you.
It does.
Well, and this is where self-awareness in that moment is the difference between somebody who goes in the other room to take a minute and the one who picks the cat up and shakes them and throws them across the room.
I mean, I've done that too.
Well,
but
listen,
I learned from it.
Listen, you know that yowl being the same frequency as a baby's cry. When Noah was like the first 6 months of Noah's life were some of the most, that was probably the hardest 6 months of my life, really 10 months. He had such horrible tummy issues that you can only do so much. And it's the most helpless feeling in the world. But he screamed those first 6 months. I mean, it was horrible. We tried. I could go into all the ways that we tried and tried and tried. All the things. And that level of stress will build to the point where it will cause a visceral reaction. And I remember having to put that baby in the crib. And I set him down. And I said, I'm going to set you down. And I'm going to walk away over here. I'm coming over here. And man, I hit the changing table across the room because it will just send you. And I remember thinking, this is how it happens. This is how people get to the point where they will shake a baby or they will do something, because if they don't have enough self-awareness and they don't have the tools in their tool belt to regulate.
Yeah.
And if they themselves were not raised with people who could regulate their own emotions, I can see now. And I've talked with other parents who are like, oh, yeah, it sounds horrible to say, but I can see it now.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember, man, I punched that changing table. I broke the damn changing table.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Yeah, you were at your full.
He was in the crib. He was across the room. And it was a very deliberate, I'm walking away. And I just gave it a punch. And I guess my punch packed more of a whatever. And it broke the changing table.
Yeah.
And I remember going, okay.
But you needed to release that stress.
You do. And I tell young moms all the time, or somebody that's just had their first baby, with that baby's colicky especially, once baby is in a safe place, in their little rocker or whatever, mama, go outside for a minute. Go take a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
But all of this, it really does revolve around being self-aware, because you can, do all the right things. You can spin the plate for your cat, and you can change the litter box, and you can change baby's diapers and love on him and walk out of the room if you need to take it, or you can do all of these things. But if you're not self-aware enough to go, I am breaking down on the inside, then eventually all of those things will catch up.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Uh-huh.
And I feel like they have it. And I can't think of a really good example of it right now, but I've certainly had moments where I've been so stressed, I've made really bad decisions, or just let things pile up to the point where maybe I drank a bottle of wine in one night, which doesn't feel good.
No.
It doesn't feel good the next day either. No. It's just not a good decision for me. And maybe it's fine for other people, but really that's too much for me. But I can let the stress build to a point where I start doing things that I don't really want to do.
Yeah.
That maybe don't serve me in the best way. And so I probably for the last 9 years, I've really tried to become, I've been actively becoming more self-aware.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think and I've had people tell me that I am, which is kind of a really nice compliment. But the first time somebody looked at me and they were like, you are really self-aware. I was like, oh.
That's a huge compliment.
I was like, what does that mean?
Yeah. And the concept is really, I feel like it's not one that's been overstated until here in the last few years, you're starting to hear it a little bit more, it's a thing,
It feels a little selfish at first, I think, because you're spending a lot of time in your own thoughts or maybe being reflective of your own behavior. And I do think it can be a slippery slope where you start to have maybe negative talk in your mind that you're not good enough, or you're not a good enough friend or wife or doing all the things. You can pinpoint it. You need to, I guess what I'm trying to say is when you're self-aware, you also need to be aware of the good things in your life.
Yeah.
And the way that you make a difference and the way that you are showing up, and not just the ways that you might be hindering or harming or slowing down the Starbucks line.
Yeah.
That is something to be aware of, but also be aware of the fact that you're a good friend or that you are a good parent. You may have moments where you're frustrated and you're human, and that's fair, but the way you're showing up for your kids 99% of the time is in a really loving and helpful and amazing way,
Well, and so apparently there's 4 types of self-awareness.
Okay.
So this is helpful because I think we've been kind of talking about maybe 2 of these.
Yeah.
But there's intrapersonal self-awareness, interpersonal self-awareness, behavioral self-awareness, which is the Starbucks line, the Chick-fil-A line, the airport, and then emotional self-awareness. And I think that some of us, probably all of us, have one of these areas where we are on. So for me, back in that time when Noah was a baby, Lord knows that baby might be screaming, but I'm not making anybody wait behind me in that Chick-fil-A line. I'm very self-aware of my surroundings and people around me. What I was not self-aware about was my own emotional state. Mm-hmm. Because with postpartum depression, if you don't handle it like with your first baby, it just compounds and gets worse next.
Did you have it? Were you diagnosed?
I did not realize that I had it with Jackson.
Okay.
And so then 19 months later, I have Noah, who has all of these exceptionalities. Not only was it, the reflux and the colic, but it was physical therapy and it was helmets and, all this stuff. That was kind of PTSD because Jackson had to have physical therapy and helmet and all that stuff.
Wow.
And all of that compounded, I did not recognize that this is not normal. This isn't like the normal experience until a friend sat across from me and said, she described how she got so frustrated one Sunday afternoon with her kids about something. And I said, yes. And she goes, but Ashley, that feeling lasts for about 30 seconds and then it's gone. And I was like, oh. And that's when I took the step to go see my doctor and explain what was happening. I was petrified because I thought, with the way I'm feeling, they're going to take my kids away. I mean, that's a real feeling that moms struggle with because they feel so horrible about the way that they feel.
Well, and you saw it happen to Britney Spears.
I mean, honestly.
You weren't that far gone, but you know what I mean?
Well, yes. But you
put those fears on yourself though, and once you've got a little bit of fear, then it starts to just
compound.
Yes, especially if you're dealing with a chemical imbalance, which you were.
That's the thing. And again, I recently I was going back through my videos on my phone, and it honestly brought me so much healing. There was one where at one point when Noah was a baby, I got to the point, and I had forgotten about this, where I would hand him my phone to distract him while I changed his diaper because it was like wrestling an alligator, but it would get him calm for that 45 seconds I needed to change his diaper. Well, there was a video on there, I don't think I'd ever seen it, where when I handed him my phone, he unknowingly turned on the video. Oh. So I got to see from his perspective what it looked like for Mama to be changing his diaper and the little ceiling and everything he was looking at. It was all from his perspective. And I thought, I did a good job. I'm looking at this young mom and she's so calm. All of the videos it kind of made me laugh because I'm going, they had no idea what was going on inside my head. Yeah. But getting to just play back these videos and hear the tone that I talked to them in and how Bradley was across the room. He's like, you sound so happy, Yeah. And, I just think, I think that point is where I started to grow in my awareness of how I was really doing emotionally, because I had learned somewhere along the line to just shove it all down and blow past it, and I think
and for the longest time, you didn't know how to name your emotions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that was kind of all around that time too.
Yeah.
So, I think all that to say, sometimes people get so kind of freaked out about how they're feeling. Mm-hmm. You don't realize that that's not what you're giving off to the world. It's just, but you do need to be aware of that so that you can go and tackle it, because you don't need to be living that way. You know,
it's interesting that you say that. I hadn't thought about it from that perspective before. And oftentimes I find that my inner world is probably not well reflected externally. I've adapted over the years from, just frustrations in my childhood, being type A people pleaser, student, all of that, into kind of a public life where I can be really struggling on the inside and nobody knows.
Mm-hmm. And we think that that's a strength. Which,
yeah, it's not.
Because
then you don't know how to ask for help.
That's the thing. Because yes, in a professional situation, man, you can turn it on and be like, I'm great. And hey, and you can do the thing, which is a skill and sometimes a necessary one in adult life.
Yes.
But it's not a character win to constantly push down how you are doing.
Yeah. I mean, it's been helpful, like you said, in certain situations where I've needed to basically turn it on, right? And perform, because I was in a performative job for so long. But it became a way of life to the point that I haven't always communicated my feelings well when I'm frustrated with someone or when I really need support. I haven't been able to ask for it because my image and my outer world was to be this person who is always happy, who's always upbeat, thoughtful, kind. And I do aspire to be those things, but I also have days where
You're human.
Yeah, where I'm not my best self.
Yeah, you don't like it,
or sad or upset.
I don't like people
or disappointed. Yes, all of those things. I had a moment of travel. Again, the trip was really amazing, but I got chosen as a random screening in the Jamaican airport.
Oh, fun.
Not fun. It really unsettled me.
Really?
To the point, yeah, it was.
Oh, no.
Normally, I would have probably just smiled through it.
Yeah.
Been graceful about it. I was an ass.
Really?
Yes. I had to tell myself not to use the words bomb, not to use the words death. I mean, I was so livid.
Was it really invasive,
angry.
or just you were just mad that it happened?
Both. As far as invasive, like I'd got a real pat down. I mean, a real solid rub down.
Woman or man?
It was a woman. But I was not being very nice to her.
Yeah.
Ashley, I was mad that it happened. I just wanted to get home. The airport had been hot. So I was sort of irritable a little bit.
Yeah.
And I have a pattern when I travel. I've traveled a lot in the last few years. I'm used to being a group 4 on American. I have priority, whatever. So I get on, I get settled, put my headphones in. We thought we had an open seat between us. That didn't turn out to be the case either. It was just this like comedy of errors where I'm sure other people thought it was really entertaining, but
not to you.
It was not to me. I stood over to the side angry. I mean, I looked at a friend. He was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "They can kiss my ass." I said it out loud. Like inner voice came out. I mean, I was just not, I was not normal. Yeah. And then when this lady starts going through my stuff, I've got a backpack and I've got a roll-on carry-on. And I've got probably 10 to 12 smaller bags.
Yeah.
Like a cosmetic style bag inside my backpack and inside my roll-on, because I also use packing cubes.
Which I heard is fabulous, by the way.
I really like it. She had to open all of them. And she like had to dig through the little areas inside my back. I felt so violated. I was so angry.
Yeah.
Because then I'm like boarding group 7 too, because I had to wait forever. All these people are watching this process happen. It happens right inside, like after they scan your boarding pass, there's this little vestibule before you go to the jetway.
Oh,
they did
dang.
it right there in front of everyone.
Oh, no.
So not only was I like searched, I was publicly searched. And here's the thing. I'm not carrying anything.
Yeah.
Like I have global entry. They did a background check on that. I'm TSA pre-checked. I've been background checked on that too. Plus I just don't like, I'm not a contraband person.
You were not the one.
No. No. I was so angry. And I don't normally overreact like that, but I was so mad. I got to my seat and I just started crying. And I couldn't.
Mandy.
I know. And it could have been a series of other things too. I think I was also like PMSing and didn't know it. But I just, and Aaron was like, what is going on? I was like, I'm angry. He's like, whoa. Well, then this gentleman sits down in the middle seat between us and has to sit next to my angry energy. I felt so bad for him.
It's like emanating.
Because yes, it was like, he probably thought, what is wrong with this woman? Because I just had tears streaming down my face. I wasn't sobbing.
Yeah.
But I was just that mad cry and you can't really stop it. They just keep streaming. And I was trying to put my headphones in and watch something to distract me or like listen to a book. And I thought, man, if I could just let something calm me down, I'll be okay. But I was so mad that happened. And I didn't care who saw. I didn't. And it was like, I don't normally act out like that though. Like normally I just roll with things and whatever. I don't know what, I don't remember exactly what led up to me being so pissed about it. I think it was expectation. Like I was expecting to have a smooth travel experience. I was expecting to get on and get settled and have my normal thing. I had my coffee in my hand and all these things. And that didn't happen.
See, that was, okay, so self-awareness check.
Yeah.
Okay, a person who is not self-aware in that situation gets pissed and maybe even goes to the point of being the one to say, I'm going to bomb and blah, bomb, 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 bomb.
Yeah, I was thinking of Meet the Parents.
Yes. So that is a person who is not self-aware. Here is your level of self-awareness in this moment. I am angry. You said it out of your mouth. I am angry. And then, since then, even now, you're processing, you're taking a minute to not just let that moment pass you by. But self-awareness means, that was a little extraordinary for me.
It really was.
So I'm going to take that little slice of pie of my life and I'm going to analyze it for a second and see what's going on there. This is self-awareness. Okay, I was angry. And then as you were talking, you just verbally walked yourself through the deeper steps, which was, why did that bring up such a reaction to you? The expectation. You had just an expectation of things going smoothly and it was interrupted. Then I think to get real psychotherapy analytical, I would then that would be the piece that I would take to my therapist and go, okay, what about expectation getting interrupted in my life is a deeper thing because it obviously touched a nerve.
Oh, it touched a big nerve. And the thing is, normally I can look at the person who's screening and go, this person's doing their job.
Yeah.
I know that.
Yeah.
She's just doing her job. I was not nice to her. She was like, may I touch you? And I was like, I don't want you to touch me, but I think that's what I need to get home. That's what I said to her. She just kind of looked at me. The answer is yes. I mean, that was, and then she was like, may I open your bag? I have to let you if I want to go home, don't I? I mean, those are my responses.
Yeah.
And I'm not normally like that. And then we get to Dallas-Fort Worth. And because of the random screening in Jamaica, my boarding pass to go from Dallas to Tyler was not pre-checked. I go through the line. My boarding pass doesn't say pre-check. This poor gentleman, I looked at him and he's like, ma'am, it doesn't say it on your boarding pass. And I was like, I know. And I know you're just doing your job. He's like, you got to go through general boarding. I'm like, I know. And I recognize you're just doing your job. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I went through and all these other things went wrong because I'm not used to taking my shoes off. I'm not used to taking the liquids out of my bag.
The grinding gritted teeth.
Yes.
They're good.
Yes. And I at that point, it had 3 hours to process on the plane. So I knew he was just doing his job and I'm not going to let it out on this guy. Well, then I go through, they stopped my bag.
Oh no.
Because I had something in there, and it was a wooden block that was a gift, like a cheese block or like that you would put cheese or charcuterie on from Singular for our trip. And that's what stopped my bag. I thought it was because I forgot to take my liquids out because I normally don't have to do that or take my laptop or any of the things out, whatever. When you're pre-checked, it's so much easier and faster and I pay for it. And I'm like, this is the way I expect to go these days. Oh man, girl. And then so I'm just standing there frantic and I'm like, I'm so sorry. I'm like, I'm a wreck because I got pre-secured to Jamaica and I'm so sorry. And normally I'm not like, this is not my normal.
You were so frazzled.
I was so frazzled and people were kind to me, but I I'm normally calm and collected, and I have my stuff together, and I go through this process, and I'm just have a smile on my face, and I'm kind to other people, and I'm helpful because I'm like, I know what this process is like.
Let me get that bin for you.
Yes.
Yes, that's me.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I was not that person. And then like the awareness after of like being so upset that I wasn't my normal self too was like
upsetting. Yeah.
It was upsetting.
Yeah.
Apparently, I'm still talking about it 5 days later.
Well, but here's the thing.
You know?
So many people, think about how many people who have had very similar situations and had the same, if not worse, reactions, and they never go back and revisit it in their mind.
Yeah.
To analyze it, to become more self-aware. Because I think that when you do that, when you go to the lengths of going, I just had this experience, it caused me to react in this way, which is very opposite of what my usual is. Let's look at why. That in a nutshell is being self-aware.
That's true.
Because here's the reason why too. Should that ever happen again, just a little bit of work that you've done here today,
I'll probably laugh about it.
well, yeah, because you're going to go, okay, Mandee, this is you. Something about expectation in life getting interrupted. We don't like that. We're gonna put that on the shelf and maybe take that to therapy at some point or whatever. But that's what's getting triggered right now. Everything's fine. Take a deep breath. And then you would likely walk through that situation totally different. And ladies and gentlemen, that is the point of self-awareness. That's the point, that we don't go through situations wanting to yell bomb, but we go through them in peace, calm, in discernment, in right-mindedness, and you cannot do that if you're not self-aware. If you haven't gone to the lengths of going, what triggered me in that moment? Because man, that was something, you know?
It was something. And again, I don't know how much of that was visible externally.
Yeah. I'm sure
curious.
It felt a lot worse to you
Man.
than it probably looked.
Yeah, I probably was standing there pretty stone-faced. I mean, I probably looked angry because I was feeling angry, but I tried to keep my mouth shut because the things that were running through my mind were not helpful. They were not helpful.
And then this is where I just happened to some compassion for the person that would have gone to the lengths of going, you know what? Bomb, 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 bomb. Because, you think about Ben Stiller in that situation. It was like, you know what?
He'd had quite a lot of stress leading up to that moment. A lot more than I had. I'd had a great week leading up to that moment. So I did have that. Going for me. Yeah.
But, I just think and this is where, and so it's important because, some people might be thinking, okay, great. So next time she doesn't have a fit going through the line, whatever. But there's a legacy piece to this because as you go about your relationships, if you can be self-aware about, why did I just react so viscerally to we were in a social situation and it seemed like my friend just kind of gave me the cold shoulder. Why did that bring up why did that embarrass me so bad? Nobody even noticed, those sort of things. If we'll take those as opportunities to be curious, which we talked about before on another episode, but to be curious about, why is that bringing up so much in me? And then go to the lengths of kind of doing some surgery on our heart and looking into it deeper. You might find that somewhere deep in there was a time when you had an expectation that wasn't met and it broke your heart.
I'm pretty sure that's there. Yeah. I don't necessarily know which one. There's probably several.
But then when you...
Yeah. I mean, truly, because this is a thing for me. And I do have an awareness of that. So that when expectations aren't met, I get not upset, but I get flustered. And I can usually take a beat and regulate, and I'm totally fine. And it doesn't unsettle me the way that it did at the airport. Yeah. But yeah, it's a thing.
But then once I think the thing about going back and figuring out what in life has really becomes such a wound that it causes triggers to happen. I think if we can go back and we treat the wound, then we begin to live instead of react.
Oh, for sure.
And I think that is the legacy piece, because when you're living and not reacting, you're going to be a better friend. You're going to be a better wife. There's got to be a better word than just living. When you're
responding and not reacting, right?
Yeah. I
think you can show up more present.
Yeah, and like with your
self.
kids, like there are things. Children, let me tell you, children can be the most triggering, sweet little babies in the world, but there are things that they have no idea, that they have just stumbled upon a little wire that they trip, that as parents we have to regulate in the moment and realize they have no idea. You know, like for instance, last night I'm putting Noah to bed and he says, I don't really like my room. And I'm like, you don't? Why? And he says, it's just so common.
What?
And I'm like, excuse me. He said, it's just made of wood and plastic. And I'm like, baby, all rooms are made of wood and plastic. But it was the second time yesterday evening that he used that word to describe our home. And I'm going to tell you,
your home is not common. I've been there. Your home is beautiful.
It gutted me for a minute. I was like, what? But this is where I had to go, Ashley, he is 6 years old. He is not thinking of how you and Bradley have broken your backs and you've worked so hard for everything you have. So it was that moment of self-awareness to not blow up on him. And then but then also, so that kind of helped me breathe and calm down and go, baby, I want you to understand something. The house that you live in compared to lots of people is anything but common. And we just took a minute. We didn't even talk about the love in the household and the laughter in the household, but we talked about the physical parts of the house. It's not common to have a pool in the backyard.
Nope.
It's just not. So I took that moment with him, and he's normally so grateful and sweet. It was such a weird...
Makes you wonder what struck him yesterday.
Something had to have been said, or so he heard something at school. That word was just so interesting. But I think in that moment, because it really pushed on the piece of me that has worked my ass off and wants my kids to see, look, you guys, like, this is an amazing life. For them to go, it's so common. I'm like, oh, like... but I can't respond to him out of that place. That would not be helpful. Right. Because he's a child. I'm an adult. I need to keep my adult things, my things, because that's obviously something I need to go and look at and analyze, you know. But with him, it gave me a minute. It helped me take a breath to go, here's my issue. Here's a wire that he just tripped. He's totally unaware. Yeah. And here's an opportunity to bring him back down to earth a little bit. Yeah. Anyway, so I just think that had I not been self-aware, okay, the difference in that conversation, not that I'm perfect at being self-aware, y'all, believe me, but I had it in that moment. This morning I did not. I told Mandee about a situation with my daughter where self-awareness goes out the window.
Yeah, you're human.
But if I hadn't been self-aware in that moment last night, I would have gone into making him, Noah, how dare you say something like, do you know how hard your dad and I have worked to give you guys this life in this house? Which would have done what? It would have shut him down. It would have made him feel bad. It would have made him think, okay, I can't tell her like what I'm thinking or feeling because she's going to blow up at me. So, and the thing that I told him last night was I said, baby, it's okay to like see how things could be better, you know, because he said, I think if we had like a glass table over here with like a game station, that would make the room better.
Interesting. I was curious I wanted to ask you what his observation was.
And he said, and then I think if we had like a glass table over here, apparently he has a thing against wood and plastic right now.
He likes glass.
He wants glass. If we had like a glass
Interesting.
desk over there to do our work. And I said, okay. So the first thing I said was I acknowledged him and I said, hey, totally okay to notice and see how something might be better or how you might like it better.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure, baby, that you're being thankful because, and then that's when I said, because the house that you live in, baby, it's anything but common, you know?
Yeah.
So anyway, hopefully that was a helpful, and he, even in that, cause he's so tender, you could tell he was like he kind of felt bad. I'm like, you kind of, little conviction here might not be terrible, but then turn around this morning and my sweet little girl starts the morning off yelling at me. And I'm like, hey, and I'm so good in this moment. Hey, baby. Let's not yell at mama. That makes mama, that hurts my feelings. I don't like it when we yell. Let's just, not. 5 minutes later, she says something and I lose my lid.
Well, because you're human. And I think, too, for moms and daughters, it's an easier trigger point.
We need to explore that at some point because
my mom and I have really gotten better as adults. But, man, when I was little, we would. And I think some of it is because I'm a reflection of her. Mm-hmm. In a lot of ways. Yep. And she wants what's best for me. And so when she sees when she saw deficits in me where she wished she had done better or done differently,
right.
I think it really triggered her.
Yeah.
And she really hammered down on me with some things that, I'm thankful for a lot of it. Honestly, it's shaped me, right? To be the person I am. And I'm proud of who I am today. But man, there were some moments where we went toe to toe, especially as I became a teenager and thought that I was bigger and stronger and badder than she was. Mm-hmm. There were some times.
Moments.
There were some moments. I really thought we were going to come to blows once. And we didn't. We looked at each other and we both realized we were about the same size and weight.
Yeah.
I think. Something along those lines. And we just turned around and walked away. It was a really strange moment of oh, this could get ugly. She's not somebody I'd want to be in a fight with. I'm over here. Yes, I think she is. She can shoot a turtle with a 22 about 50 yards away. She's a remarkable woman. Maybe. She also, her home ec project when she was in high school, she built a barn.
Like a full-on barn?
A full-on barn.
All right. No, I wouldn't want to mess with them.
No, she's something, man. She worked at Texas Eastman for 20 years on a shift with all men as a chemical operator, rotating shift work, because she wanted to provide a better life for us.
Yeah.
So at the time, there were all kinds of frustrations and challenges with the way that she worked, but she made a lot of sacrifices.
Yeah.
Kind of like you're saying with you and Bradley, she made a lot of sacrifices so that my brother and I could grow up with things that she did not have.
Yeah.
And I saw some of it then, but I was also a bratty teenager at a lot of points too.
Yeah.
And now I have a very deep appreciation for the things that she gave me. So there's hope for Noah to recognize these things and not say that it's common.
It was just so not like him because Noah is my one to walk by me. He walked by me months ago, said, "Mom, you're on fire." I was like, "I love you, kid."
You are.
To hear the thing that you helped create call you, just say you're on fire. That's
I'm seeing the Alicia Keys
core
meme,
memory.
Girl on fire.
Girl is.
Yep, I'm seeing that right now.
Yep. And Noah is normally the one where on his own, he'll come up beside me. He's such a lover. He'll just love on me. He's like, "You're the best mom ever." He's very grateful and sweet and just precious. But also I have to put my stuff aside and go, there's something that he feels like would make his room better. And that's okay. I cannot make my issues his issues, and I refuse.
Well, that just takes us back to the beginning,
yes.
I feel like. And I'm so glad that this topic came up. I feel like we're just so fortunate that each time we sit down together, something is on your heart or mine, and then the other one's like, "Oh, I'm feeling that too. Let's
put
do
the
that.
Headphones on.
Let's put the headphones on and go." Yeah, which is really how this whole thing got started. So I'm just thankful that it's continuing. Yeah. And I don't know how many episodes deep we are, 40 something, but
gosh.
March will be a year, so
that's crazy.
This is fun, and I'm looking forward to some upcoming episodes with some guests that we have in store and revisiting some conversations, and I think it's going to be a good year.
Yep, me too. Thanks, friend.
The Celebrating Women podcast wants to hear from you. email us a voice message to celebratingwomenpodcast@gmail.com. We would love to hear your story or the story of an incredible woman you know. Become part of the conversation on social media. Facebook.com/celebratingwomenpodcast. On Instagram, search Celebrating Women Podcast. The Celebrating Women Podcast has been presented by Hand and Stone Massage and Facial Spa in Tyler, Texas. Book your appointment today. Stop by the spa in Cumberland Shopping Center or online at handandstonetyler.com. The Celebrating Women Podcast is created and hosted by Mandee Montana and Ashley Fisher. Support the show for as little as $3 per month at celebratingwomenpodcast.buzzsprout.com or visit our show notes. Thank you for listening, and don't forget to subscribe to the Celebrating Women Podcast.